WEFM, the clean, fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WeFM 99.9 is on now.
Lad Maka, you and these instrumentals. All right. So it's ever in SVG, it is 8:46, and that means it's time for us to hit commentary from Dr. Gerald Thompson.
I want to hear the flip side of this fire thing from Doc.
No, not really a flip side. I'm not going there. I'm going pretty standard.
Okay.
I'm going pretty standard. I want to emphasize. Yeah.
All right, Doc, go right ahead.
Oh, sorry. My gosh. Good day. I thought we were still off air. My apologies, listeners. You know, I've got to start off by saying I have a case currently at Calaqua. Someone had broken into where we have the mangrove in November of last year and stolen a large solar battery that we just imported. It has prevented certain progress in terms of making that park 100% renewable. And I'm very grateful for the policemen at Calaqua Police Station because they responded and so forth. We've not been able to catch apprehend the individuals, but the case is still live. It was just a few days, last week, we had an exercise walk from Calaqua to Brighton Salt Pond Beach, and about 8 or 9 policemen participated from the Calaqua Police Station. And it saddens me to know that they have lost all their uniforms, stationery, or a lot of personal possessions, and that my case, the paperwork, may well have gone too. As I was saying earlier on, I am not taken by the chatter. The chatter will occur with every issue because for some people there's fun in that. That's excitement. Participate. When you see somebody responds and they say something that's silly, you respond to that silliness. And then somebody responds to you and it goes back and forth and things like that. And you know, you're going to see this. If it was chatter about Elvis or Michael Jackson or Rihanna, the chatter is going to go on, in some major way. But I had to mention that because the question was what lessons I learned. And I think life went into really great detail about the court documents and what will happen and so on. I'm not going to really touch on that. I think he did a great job. I want to focus in relation to lessons learned in our homes and the possibility of a fire affecting you. And I know the firemen are well trained. I know that many of them traveled, go to regional disasters. And in relation to the regional organization called CDEMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency puts on these kind of courses as well as various other things. It deals more with mass fires. And if you remember early last year, we had a bushfire up at Gun Hill going over, from Edinburgh on the top of northern part of Kingstown that destroyed someone's home. I think several was really threatening to a number of different people. And throughout St. Bates, we have a lot of bushfires and so that takes place. And the question is there such a thing as sulfur grass or were these things set? But I want to point out that in relation to statistics, and these are more global statistics, that 48% of fires that you see in household, are really caused by cooking. And this is a serious concern. And I know that sometime last year too, there was a major bushfire that took place in California. And we may have listeners. We're probably not going to have listeners at this time because it'll be about 5 o'clock in the morning in
Kojo there.
Kojo in California or in New York?
California.
Is it in California? Okay, all right. But now I'm trying to find the section that I'm really, so as to leave up. Now, so cooking unattended is the top cause of fires, particularly on stovetop, involving grease or reused cooking oil, repeatedly reused cooking oil, especially when the cooking is being done at high temperatures. And sometimes, you're fried an egg and you throw the egg and the bacon in back, as a man, you done it, and then you leave it, go to the bathroom, you come back and you see the thing flaming up, and so you wonder what the hell's going on. You thought you had it on low, high temperatures and cooking oil. And this is a real serious thing. I don't know why I'm jumping back and so forth, Now, it is also noted that the second and the third major causes are not causes that are so peculiar to St. Vincent. And these involve heating devices, space heaters. And if you're in New York and so forth, boy, watch out for space heaters. And then the third being block chimneys. I don't know if anybody in St. Vincent has a chimney, a block chimney or anything like that. So those two, which account for 21%, another 50%, are not peculiar to St. Vincent. So our cooking ain't going to be 48%, but much higher. But the important thing I want to bring is the fourth cause globally, which may be probably the second important cause for St. Vincent and in the Caribbean, is electrical faults, overloading, faulty wiring, overworked outlets, too many appliances plugged into that one plug, because that is where you need the thing. You don't have or you use an extension cords and so forth. You have maybe one plug in each room or two in each room. And these things are very serious concern. And then the thing is combustible material, cardboard, paper, and improper storage of flammable liquids. These would not so much pertain to the household, but I wanted to bring up these particular things. Now, human error, right? And this is more related to deaths. In a small household, obstructing the exits, leaving appliances on, and not, dealing with them properly. But cooking is such a routine part of our lives. It's easy to forget the high temperature and the dangers that are actually involved. And I thought I would bring this other aspect out because there are far more house fires than there are in terms of commercial fires. So commercial fires have a big impact and so forth in terms of workers and all that. But clearly, we tend to have several of these fires each year, and hearing about a house burned down here and a house burned down there and the impact that it has. I want to say that electrical distribution or lighting equipment as an important cause of home fires. Everybody, the lesson learned is that we have to pay, first of all, more attention to our cooking and the protocol of how you leave a fire. If it's raining, do you bring that cold pot with the breadfruit roasting in to the kitchen so that it could continue roasting? Do we do that? Do we actually roast the breadfruit? I say a lot of people roast the breadfruit in the stove and so forth. Does it taste? Maybe it doesn't taste the same. I don't know. But the important thing is the electrical fire. Because we would build these houses, we run out of money. We try and get somebody to do some electrical. The electrical is there's an inspector who comes and checks, yes. But I think that there's sometimes some very shoddy work, transformers and so forth. And everybody needs to, in terms of the lessons learned, double check what you're doing. Set up a protocol with your kids who are staying up late and so forth, who fall asleep with appliances on and things like that. Check these particular things, and everyone should have some particular household. More importantly, we are a society that doesn't tend to keep insurance on our home. And as a result, when there's a loss, when there's a fire, we typically go to the government to help rebuild our house and so on. Some persons have benefited in that regard. But maybe there's a time to look at all these sort of things. And so in this short commentary, I wanted to shift, not deliberately from that of the police station and the loss and all the ripple effects that life has so aptly raised. I want to say, in terms of in your own household, there are things that you can do. Cooking, in terms of the electrical wiring and appliances, and carelessness in terms of open fires, roasting the breadfruit and other sort of things near the house, the storage of cardboard and other inflammables and things like that. Pay some attention to this. I haven't addressed fire extinguishers and all that sort of stuff, but I think that first line may well help to prevent a fire in your home.
Yeah, and another point too is that even as you look at it in a personal context, in a home, in a domestic sense, even things such as where you store your documents, right? Are you storing your vital, like your certificates, your deeds, your whatever else you might have, passports? How are you storing them? Are you storing them in a fire retardant type of bag or whatever the case might be? So you have to look at those things. I know in one of the cop chat sessions when we had the fire department, I think a point was being made about houses need to be inspected ever so often. I can't remember how many years. After how many years have passed, they need to be inspected. But how many persons do that, right? And it's not just in a domestic sense. I also have to wonder, how often do some of these government buildings, how often are they inspected?
Yes, yeah.
Because many of them occupy older buildings. We see all the wiring on the outside that hook up with the
meter. Yeah.
No, when you run the lines, they hook up with the little thing. So they're not in. So you can recognize a building is old by how the wiring is done, right? That's the point that I was making. Mm-hmm. So even with that, many of these older buildings that that government departments occupy, how often are they inspected?
You raise an important point, and it really has to be done, especially putting in computers and the higher load that's being used on the thing. The overloading is really something really. But before coming, I tried researching to find out, in islands, I tend to have a lot more wooden houses, and I put like St. Kitts and Dominica and also Antigua, maybe to some extent Barbados, where like in St. Kitts and Dominica, they put actually, I think, to retain the wooden structures as part of their cultural heritage. really are there, or is there a higher incidence of fires and so forth? Or is this compensated by people being that much more careful and so forth? You know, I think that is some interesting questions, but that's what I'm trying to emphasize today.
Yeah. All right. All right. So I don't have anything else to add. Because I think sometimes until we find ourselves in a position, we look back and we think of all the things that we could have done correctly or should have done. But we shouldn't have to be seeing so many different experiences from other persons to understand where it is that we need to do better. So, yeah. All right.
Another thing I see a lot of persons doing is leaving on appliances and go away.
Do you know something? Every now and again, the other day I got an iron, and I thought the iron was one of these iron that turns off itself, and somehow it didn't. I left it on. I come back and meet the iron still on and so forth. You know, people would say, Doc, I thought you had somebody ironing your shirts and so forth like that. I'm a little domestic, and I was cook, shop, or wash and so forth. So I could iron release that, you know what I mean? I
expect you to know how to iron, wash, cook, and clean, Doc. Come on.
I cook, shop, and wash. But you know, the thing is that it's good when you see the television today. They tend to, at a certain time,
they come out for themselves,
close off themselves, and so forth. And I wish a stove could do it. Maybe a stove would turn off when the gas run out.
No, but that's the thing. I always think as well too. You hear people saying that they're going home and they're going to cook. They know they're tired, but don't cook when you're tired. You know, that's one of the things to try to avoid. Don't cook when you're tired. I would not leave my kitchen space. Well, I don't cook when I'm tired, number one, right? But I won't leave my kitchen space unless I finish cooking.
See, you could be tired because you're also hungry, you know?
That's why you always have bread or cricks on hand, right?
Okay.
One of those things, vital supplies, right? But another thing too, let me just mention it as well.
Somebody said, tell that don't buy any cheap iron.
Because it should actually click off.
I expected that. I deliberately mentioned it because I wanted, in a way, to say the same thing. But I couldn't tell persons not to buy a cheap iron.
Right.
I can't say so, Maka.
So you will know for
people
next time.
interpret it that way. The advocates of cheap iron will say, Doctor, you say don't buy your cheap iron. So somebody's telling me, and maybe that's what I wanted to induce. You know, because other people are hearing that. Yeah. You know, they isn't that Doc must buy a cheap iron, but I must buy a good iron.
And Doc can't say it because come across like an elitist or something. So he can't. Right? Somebody's also saying don't cook when you're drunk. But drunk people are actually aware of their conditions when they're drunk. That's another thing as well. But one of the final things that I wanted to make note of as well is, and it really and truly bothers me every time I see it, you see people who light fires and walk away. You're lighting a bushfire and walking away. It's one of those things that just really grinds me the wrong way, because apart from the situation of smoke, you just never know if it can pick up and how far it can spread.
I shouldn't say this. This is going to get me in trouble. This is going to get me in trouble. About 3 weeks ago, I was clearing an area, and we had allowed the material to dry, and we set some fires. Some of the material was still a little green, so it created a fair amount of smoke. And then, but we had everything under control. And then I saw a car coming, you know, and policemen coming out. And the policemen were dead arms, you know what I mean? And they asked me who I am and what am I doing and so forth, and why am I, and they told me fires are not supposed to be set only between 5 and 6 in the morning and 5 and 6 in the evening. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And then somebody called me and said, do you know you are smoking out the prime minister. My smoke was going up to where the prime minister is currently residing. And the smoke was probably, he may not have been home, but affecting his household. And I want to apologize. I didn't to all the persons who might have been affected. But I didn't know that was the situation. Now, I should not have mentioned it because persons might say, well, Doc did it for spite, or Doc did it out of malice, or something, whatever it is. But in truth, I should have known. And I did. Maka, you know the time you have to set fires and so forth? If you have ever set fires?
I knew about it before, yeah.
You know about that?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, but I wanted that public education. I'm told that you're not supposed to set any sort of fire. I mean, in general, you're not supposed to set fires at all, really. But, if you do have to, right, it's between 5 and 6 in the morning and 5 and 6 in the evening. I thought that's strange because those waking up and there's a fire, I thought that would affect people before breakfast.
Is it law? I don't know why. Why it is. It was put in like that,
but I want to publicly say that I was concerned that I'd be misinterpreted, that I did it out of some sort of malice.
But somebody said that there is a big fire.
It wasn't because the stuff was
green,
still a little green underneath. Mm-hmm. It caused a little more smoke than I expected. I thought it was dry. It caused a little more smoke than expected.
Not nearly smoke I wonder, across, right?
Yeah, but I wondered too.
Yeah, and the wind was doing some dastardly things with it. But we had it under control and so forth.
But I wonder too so they showed up because you were smoking out where the PM is living. But if somebody like me were to call them and say somebody smoking me out, would they respond the same way? Because the point about it, I believe that's because there was so much smoke. They wanted to find out why, and so forth, as opposed to ignoring it, and the reason why
I accept that release. I'm not giving any other.
I get it. But somebody share a joke about it, but I'm gonna say it on air.
With the mosquito?
No, that person. But one of the things that so even last week I observed where it is I was at home, and there are about 5-6 different fires going in Clare Valley.
Yeah. What time? Between 5 and 6?
No, it was before. Oh, maybe it was approaching 6 actually. It was approaching 6. Uh-huh. But in different locations, I could spot about 5-6 different fires going. And I'm there like, geez,
Yes.
I don't know, boy. I don't know when we're going to get past the situation of this constant lighting of fires, but I've exhausted speaking on this, so I don't know. I'll bring it back up again next year, maybe.
Next year?
Yeah, I think it's maybe like an annual thing, but we will see. All right, so we're heading on out of this segment, and remember that our next talk time will be at 9:20 when it will be the Talk to Us open forum, all right? So this is Activating Mornings program here on WEFM.
Nothing else sounds as good as WEFM.